You can almost hear the silence before the sun rises over the Giza Plateau. The breeze is still cool, whispering softly over the sands before the furnace of the Egyptian day begins. You stir awake in your modest mud brick shelter, shared with other laborers, men just like you. Some snore. Others are already shuffling about, gathering their things in the dim half-light of dawn. You sit up slowly, letting your body adjust. The aches are familiar now, a stiffness in your shoulders, a dull heaviness in your legs, the kind that doesn't quite fade, no matter how much rest you try to get. You pull on your linen wrap and step outside. The air is dry and still. There's no noise yet, except the faint clatter of pots, the rustle of movement, and the occasional cough from the surrounding quarters. Ahead of you, past the sleeping pens, the outline of the Great Pyramid rises, unfinished but massive. Even now, after months working beside it, the sheer scale is almost beyond understanding. You're not a slave. That's what people in distant future centuries might think, but you're not. You're a worker, part of a rotating labor force organized by the state. Your village was called to send men for a season of service. It's an honor. It's hard, but it's not punishment. Your name might be recorded in clay or ink somewhere by a scribe, or maybe it won't. Maybe no one will remember you, not by name. But the pyramid will stand long after your bones return to sand. In a way, you tell yourself that's enough. The morning meal is a simple one. Bread, beer, a few dried figs if you're lucky. Some days, lentils or onions. A dull ache in your stomach says it's not quite enough, but it's something. You're not starving, not like the farmers do in bad years when the Nile floods wrong. You stretch in the pale light, the foreman calls, your crew together. There's a quiet resignation in the way everyone rises, dusting themselves off. A new day, another 1,000 stones to move, another 100 steps carved, pounded, lifted, slid. The tasks are assigned. You're working on a hauling crew today, not masonry. You're relieved. It's exhausting work, yes, but at least you're not choked with dust and deafened by chisels all day. Your calloused hands grip the thick ropes. The sled groans under the weight of the limestone block as your team chants in rhythm. One voice leads, others join. The beat isn't musical, it's mathematical. It helps you pull together, lean together, breathe together. Forward, strain, slide, rest. Sweat begins early. By the time Ra climbs higher in the sky, it's already soaking through your clothes. The sun turns everything golden at first. The sand, the stone, your skin. Later, it will turn everything into a blistering white hell. The foreman allows breaks at intervals. There's a water boy. The water is warm and dusty, but precious. You drink carefully, slowly, just enough to keep your strength. You wonder what your wife is doing back home. Maybe tending the goats. Maybe feeding your youngest. Maybe she's staring at the sky, hoping you're still alive. You wonder if she dreams of the pyramid, too. If she's proud. If she's scared. By midday, blisters form beneath your calluses. One man in your crew limps, an old ankle injury acting up. Another curses under his breath, quietly enough that the overseers won't hear. The heat makes men strange, silent, angry, faint. You've seen someone collapse before. The healers came quickly. He was carried away, given rest. You never saw him again. Maybe he went home. Maybe he didn't. Still, the work goes on. The afternoon passes in a haze. The sun doesn't move, or it feels like it doesn't. Shadows don't grow longer. They just vanish into the white. The sandstone walls around the construction site radiate heat. Your skin burns. Your mouth feels like chalk. Evening comes with relief, soft and slow. Not a sound of joy, but a shift in rhythm. The pace eases. The foreman gives the signal. The ropes are dropped. The sled is locked down. Tools are returned. Shirts are peeled from backs and rinsed in the water trough. You rub grit from your eyes. Everything stings. Back at camp, The stew is thicker than yesterday. That's good. Someone says new supplies arrived by boat this morning. You eat in silence. Someone hums a tune. Someone else tells a story about a worker who met a goddess in the desert. You don't believe it, but you don't say anything. You want to believe in something more than stone. A scribe walks by, counting heads. Another records. The food. A priest speaks with the foreman, murmuring something about the alignment of stars. A carving is unveiled on one of the temple walls. It's beautiful. You stare at it longer than you should. Night comes slowly, and with it, a strange peace. The wind cools. The sand softens. You lie on your back and look at the sky. Stars like tiny holes in the fabric of the world. You wonder if the gods are watching. You wonder if they care. You sleep, and tomorrow you will rise again, to haul, to build, to endure. And so, we leave behind the blistered hands of the workers and the eternal stone of the pyramids. The sun still hangs heavy over Egypt, though centuries have quietly passed. The sands have shifted, burying old scars and lifting new names into the wind. Among them, a name whispered across millennia: Tutankhamun. Scene 1. A boy becomes pharaoh. Imagine yourself now in a palace made of sandstone and silence. The air is still. Beyond heavy curtains, the Nile rolls on, sluggish and eternal. A young boy walks carefully across cool, tiled floors, barefoot, limping slightly, flanked by silent priests and stern-faced advisors. Tutankhamun was no warrior king. He ascended the throne around the age of 9, his crown heavier than he could bear, both literally and figuratively. His father, Akhenaten, had broken centuries of tradition by forcing the worship of a single sun god, Aten. Temples were closed, names chiseled off walls, old gods cast aside. The boy inherited not only a kingdom in turmoil, but a legacy viewed with suspicion. He did not make grand speeches. He did not command legions. Instead, he was guided, quietly, gently, by priests and bureaucrats who sought to undo his father's changes. Under their influence, the temples of Amun reopened. The old gods returned. The boy king's very name, Tutankhamun, was a soft renunciation of his father's faith. His name meant living image of Amun. Picture the young king watching sacred rituals from behind a carved screen, the scent of incense clinging to his linens. His court was one of soft steps, hushed voices, and carefully measured decisions. Not a place of conquest, but of restoration. Scene 2. Fragile bones and quiet days, Tutankhamun was not well. Modern science, through CT scans and genetic testing, suggests a body riddled with ailments: a cleft palate, a curved spine, a clubfoot. Some believe he suffered from malaria. Others point to signs of inbreeding within the royal line, but in the palace, such weaknesses would not be spoken aloud. He would have been lifted into chariots, supported at ceremonies, presented to the people from a distance, seated perhaps in shaded balconies above the temple processions. Imagine his days: gentle mornings on shaded balconies, servants brushing oil into his hair, soothing balms on aching joints. Scrolls read aloud, offerings left at the shrines. At night, perhaps he would walk the palace gardens, trailing a hand across cool reeds, the sound of frogs whispering from the riverbanks. The boy was married too, likely to his half-sister, Ankhesenamun. Their images appear side by side in frescoes and carvings, exchanging lotus flowers, hunting birds in a papyrus marsh, watching the stars. Whether theirs was a marriage of affection or ritual, we cannot know. But the artwork shows tenderness, closeness, a desire for peace. No great war defines his reign. No towering obelisks bear his name. And yet, in the quiet restoration of traditions, In the soft realignment of a shaken kingdom, he left a gentle imprint on history's pages. Scene 3. A sudden end, and then the silence became permanent. Tutankhamun died around the age of 18 or 19. The cause? Still debated. Some say an infected leg injury, others a genetic collapse of the royal line. Theories multiply like the desert winds. Quiet, swirling, inconclusive. What we do know is this: he was not ready. His tomb, tucked hurriedly into the Valley of the Kings, was small, cramped, hastily prepared. The paint was still wet on some walls when the sarcophagus was sealed. Imagine that moment. Priests chanting low, linen wrapped tightly, amulets tucked against his chest. Then silence again, this time forever. The tomb would remain hidden for over 3,000 years, its entrance lost, beneath workmen's huts and drifting stone. And the boy who once watched the Nile from palace balconies would become legend only in death. Scene 4. The oddities of the tomb now picture a dim room, lit only by the warm flicker of oil lamps. It is 1922, and British archaeologist Howard Carter has just cracked open the seal of a forgotten tomb. "Can you see anything?" someone asks. Carter replies, barely above a whisper, "Yes, wonderful things." Tutankhamun's tomb was a treasure chest of untouched wonders: golden chariots, ebony statuettes, alabaster jars still holding perfumed oils. And at the heart of it all, 3 nested coffins. The innermost made of solid gold, but not everything was perfect. The golden mask, so serene in its expression, did not match the proportions of his skull. Some items were clearly reused, likely scavenged from other royal burials in the rush to complete his own. Why the haste? Perhaps his death was too sudden, or perhaps political forces were already moving to erase him again, just as his father had been erased. His name, too, would be removed from official lists of kings, until the 20th century rediscovered him. Scene 5. The afterglow of a forgotten king today. Tutankhamun is one of the most famous names in the world. And yet, in life, he was nearly lost to time. His reign was quiet. His health was fragile. His decisions were guided more than made, and maybe that's why we remember him so clearly now. Not because of conquest or brilliance, but because of fragility, humanity, stillness. In a world of pharaohs with towering ambitions and enduring monuments, here was a boy who drifted gently across the surface of history, only to become eternal by accident. Let yourself rest here, with him, among lotus petals and painted walls, in the hush of a palace long gone, where sandals scuffed softly across cool stone, and the Nile whispered stories only the stars could hear. Imagine yourself walking through a golden morning haze, where the sun rises gently over the Giza Plateau. The air is still, and the desert sand lies soft under your feet. In the distance, a silhouette begins to emerge, not of a pyramid, but something older, quieter, and far more mysterious. It is the Great Sphinx, carved from the living bedrock, lying silently at the edge of the world's memory. Its body is that of a lion, strong, grounded, unmoving. Its head, though weathered, bears the likeness of a human ruler, gazing forward with an expression that time has faded into stillness. It does not speak, and yet it speaks volumes. Let's begin our slow, gentle descent into the mystery, a monument carved in silence. The Sphinx is over 240 feet long and 66 feet high, and yet no ancient record explicitly mentions its construction. No papyrus, no carving, no definitive name attached. It is one of the largest and oldest monolithic statues in the world, and perhaps the most silent. Most scholars believe it was built during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, around 2500 BCE. But even this is debated. There are no inscriptions bearing Khafra's name near the Sphinx, no grand decree carved in stone. What remains is inference, its location near Khafra's pyramid complex, the alignment with the rising sun, and fragments of a beard found beneath it. Now broken, now stored in museums far away. Still, the sands have buried and uncovered it time and again, like the slow breathing of history itself. Stone against sand, the ravages of time. If you stood near the Sphinx during its early years, you would have seen bright red and blue pigments still clinging to its face. Yes, it was once painted. The stone paws, massive and outstretched, would have gleamed against a well-maintained causeway. Offerings may have been placed at its feet. People may have prayed to it, perhaps not knowing exactly why. Over centuries, the desert began to reclaim it. Sand filled the hollows, slowly rising until it buried everything but the serene head. Again and again, different rulers would order it excavated, only for it to be swallowed once more. By the time of Thutmose IV in the 15th century BCE, the Sphinx was already an ancient relic. The prince dreamed that the buried creature spoke to him, promising kingship if he would dig it free. He obeyed, and recorded his vision on a stela that still rests between its paws. But even that story, inscribed in stone, feels more like poetry than history. A dream carved into rock. The missing nose, the silent gaze. Much has been said of the Sphinx's missing nose. Tales suggest cannon fire from Napoleon's troops, or even targeted destruction by a Sufi mystic who saw the statue as idolatrous. But drawings from before Napoleon's time show the nose already gone, so it remains faceless in part, an ancient watcher diminished but never erased. The missing nose has become its own symbol of mystery, not merely of damage, but of how much we don't know and may never know. And still it watches. Beneath the surface, hollow places, secret chambers, in the 20th and 21st centuries, new mysteries arose. Seismic surveys beneath the Sphinx revealed anomalies, voids, perhaps chambers, hidden beneath the bedrock. Were they ancient storage rooms, buried temples, or just natural cavities in the limestone? No one knows for certain because excavation beneath the Sphinx is restricted. Out of respect, or fear, or uncertainty, the secrets beneath remain untouched. Some fringe theories whisper of lost civilizations, of Atlantis, of hidden records sealed away before the Nile knew kings. These ideas float more in myth than fact, but even myth has its own calm rhythm, its own purpose. It lets us dream, and dreaming is part of history too. Alignment and the stars. The Sphinx faces due east, directly toward the rising sun during the spring equinox. Some astronomers have noted a possible alignment with the constellation Leo, which also resembles a lion. If true, perhaps the Sphinx wasn't just a guardian of tombs, but a guardian of time, a celestial being carved into stone, keeping watch over an eternal cycle. Others note that the head is out of proportion with the body. Could it have been recarved? Was the original head that of a lion, or a different pharaoh? No one can say. The questions pile like desert dunes. The more we look, the more we wonder. The more we wonder, the quieter the answers become. A gentle ending to the mystery. And so, the Sphinx rests. Part guardian, part question mark, part dream. Beneath it, the sands shift slowly. Around it, the stars rise and fall. The people who carved it are long gone. The tools they used have turned to dust. But the Sphinx remains, not to tell us something, but perhaps to remind us how much we've forgotten. It is a monument not just to power, but to silence. And in that silence, there is a kind of peace, a kind of sleep. Let us lie beside it now, under the early evening stars of ancient Egypt, where time moves slowly, and the world is made not of noise, but of stone and sky and mystery. Now, Let us drift upward, away from the grit and heat of the workers' quarters, toward a different world entirely. One of smooth stone floors and linen robes, perfumed oils and golden goblets. It is the realm of the Egyptian elite, the priests, scribes, nobles, and of course the pharaoh himself. While the pyramid builders toiled under the scorching sun, another class of Egyptians lived lives marked by leisure, ceremony, and power. Imagine yourself walking through the wide, shaded corridors of a noble's estate. The air is cool compared to the open desert, and the soft sound of water trickling from a nearby fountain soothes the ears. Slaves and servants move quietly, carrying trays of fruits, perfumes, or scrolls. The nobleman reclines on a carved wooden bench cushioned with linen as a scribe reads aloud a letter or recites from the Book of the Dead. Their day is not dictated by the chisel or the hauling rope, but by ritual and rhythm. The elite rise with the sun, just as the workers do, but instead of heading to a quarry, they may begin with a ritual bath, prayers to household gods, and a leisurely breakfast of bread, figs, and beer. Then perhaps a visit to the temple, where incense curls upward in silent spirals and chants echo softly among the stone pillars. Or maybe they'll hold court, reviewing disputes over land, grain, or labor. Their clothing is light, made of finely woven linen, some nearly transparent, a mark of status. They wear kohl around their eyes, not merely for fashion, but also to protect from the sun and ward off evil spirits. Jewelry gleams from wrists and necks, amulets of turquoise, lapis lazuli, and gold, each piece believed to carry divine power. Even the scents around them are curated. Myrrh, frankincense, and lotus oil waft gently through their homes, a contrast to the dusty roads outside. Meals in elite households are elaborate, yet unhurried. Picture a banquet in the evening. A low table adorned with roasted goose, lentils, cucumbers, sweet dates, and honey cakes. Musicians strum harps and flutes while dancers perform slow, swaying movements. Wine flows, laughter is soft, and the atmosphere is calm, calculated, refined. But even among the elite, life was not free of stress. Prestige had to be maintained. Political shifts could threaten status. A wrong move at court, a poor harvest, affecting landholdings, or a pharaoh's displeasure could mean sudden downfall. Still, the contrast between this life and that of the laborers is vast, one built upon control and symbolism, the other upon sweat and sun. Priests held immense influence. Their lives were bound to ritual, cleansing, reciting sacred texts, caring for temple statues believed to house the gods themselves. These figures never touched raw meat or wore wool. They shaved their heads, wore white, and lived by codes passed down for generations. Their voices were often the last heard by a dying man and the first during coronation ceremonies. And then, of course, there was the pharaoh, a divine ruler believed to be the living Horus. His palace was a fortress of grandeur, yet the man, beneath the crown, despite immense luxury, bore the burden of divine kingship. From festivals like the Heb-Sed to military campaigns and temple constructions, every decision rippled through the nation. Even his leisure, often spent hunting or sailing, was observed and recorded, turned into art, and interpreted as divine. Signs. Within this elite bubble, time moved differently. There was a sense of permanence in their world, a belief that rituals could sustain the cosmos, that order, ma'at, must be maintained against chaos, isfet. The elite lived not just for the moment, but for eternity. Tombs were built in life, painted with scenes of idealized afterlives, fishing on calm waters, strolling through reed fields forever young. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long golden shadows over the land, the music in the noble's home softens. Servants light oil lamps and the air grows still. The noble retires, perhaps to dream of immortality, while the worker, in a distant village, curls up on a mat of woven reeds, hands still aching from the day's toil. Two lives in one kingdom, worlds apart, yet inextricably connected by the stone, blocks rising silently toward the sky. Let us now gently step away from both shadow and sunlight, from sandaled feet on cool tile to calloused souls on sun-baked earth. The rhythms of life in ancient Egypt, whether noble or nameless, beat on, echoing softly in the stillness of time. So now, as the echoes of ancient Egypt settle softly in your mind, let the flicker of oil lamps fade, the sand grow still, and the distant hum of labor fall silent. The workers sleep, the nobles dream. The Nile flows on, as it always has. And here, in your own quiet corner of the world, it's time to rest too. You've wandered far through time tonight. Now, allow yourself to drift, gently, slowly, into sleep. The past is quiet now. The present is peaceful. Good night.